Om Sahanā-Vavatu, Sahanā Bhunaktu, Saha Viryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinavaditamastu, Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Oh, good morning. Okay, we pick up on Viveka Chudamani, Crest Jewel of Discernment. This morning will be our last in the introduction. For those that have the book, this particular book, and might have been reading along, and we still have a number of them at the ashram, so if someone would like one, we can send you one, or Amazon has used copies, and that's what we always get, are used copies, because we give out a lot of these. We use them a lot when we're traveling in the retreats, the silent retreats, especially week-long, we'll use. Okay. And in the introduction is this discussion of the underlying philosophy. And Swami Prabhavananda has been sharing, Swami Prabhavananda has been sharing Shankara's underlying philosophy. So this discussion this morning is Brahman and Ishvara, the what is what relationship between the two. And in some ways it's a bit esoteric and pedantic, very much philosophy, but we'll see at the close of it, it's also very practical. I remember when we were actually in Cottonwood, and we had the tree, the ficus tree, it's over here now. And it used to sit in the other place in front of where Gopala would sit. Or sometimes it would sit next to me here, like that. And we would be talking about this dive into reality that we take with Vedanta, not this, not that, neti. And peeling the layers, as it were, of the perceived reality to look for the deeper realities. And Gopala would we'd ask the question, what is this? And Gopala would love to go to the end. He'd say, Brahman. And it's all Brahman. I'd say, dear Gopala, we could say that, but we have to have some capacity to relate to it. So step by step is actually beneficial. And this Brahman Ishvara question is a question of step by step. And we'll pick up, but we'll say first, here the term Brahman is denoting not the all, but the underlier, the substratum. Here in this discussion, we've peeled everything away and we've gotten to what is remaining, and Brahman will be the word to describe what is remaining, the unmanifest, that which is even beyond the unmanifest. Sometimes we'll use, in terms of looking at this consciousness, we'll use the ocean as a way of relating to it and the different levels within the ocean. And what we understand if we step back from it is that all of it is water. But in the ocean, what we see is the surface level. And typically in our experience with the ocean, that's all we see, because generally speaking, we don't dive under the surface of the ocean, right? Consciousness, we can say the same. Yeah, but I remember, being at the ocean, and I sit at the beach and I observe the ocean. Maybe I dive in, but I don't really go beyond. I scuba dived once, and I have an experience I'll share with you. I had the idea many years ago that I would scuba, that I would learn to have the tank and, dive deep. And this was before conscious spiritual path. And I was living on Long Island Sound was close by, and the lessons that the teacher was giving were on Long Island Sound. Well, Long Island Sound is an interesting place because the water is not really clear. If you get below about 3 or 4 feet, you can't. So, anyway, that experiment ended when I drank a lot of water or inhaled a lot of water and panicked. And I said, this is enough of that. So diving under the surface is also not easy. But if we look, what we see is the ocean, the surface, which is what we're most familiar with, which is waves and bubbles and all of this. And then under the surface, there is, I remember, beware of the undertow. Under the surface, there is water, which is not yet bubbles or waves, but which, if you wait long enough, it will be. And so it's as yet undefined. And that, from the perspective of Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, would be called unmanifest. Unmanifest, meaning it's bound to take form at some point, but now it has no form. It is water without form, and yet it is water that has the potential to take form and likely will take form and be defined as this wave or this bubble or that bubble. So these are two levels of consciousness, as it were. And here we can say two levels of water, but it's one water, yeah? One water. There's only, in the ocean, we're only dealing with water. And then there's the deeper level of the ocean, and we go to these particularly deep parts of the ocean, like what is it called? The trench, Marianas Trench, is that the name? Mm-hmm. Where it's thousands of miles deep, something like that, a couple of thousand miles deep, isn't it? Like that. And that water, at the deepest levels, never moves. And from some perspective, you could say, what is its purpose then? Well, its purpose is to form the basis for the water above it. So it forms the basis for the unmanifest, which can become manifest and likely will become manifest, and it forms the basis for the manifest. But what we've got is water all the way through, from the deepest to the highest, to the bubbles. It's all water. There's nothing other than water, right? But different roles or different roles is a good way to relate to it. One water. And I remember reading something some months ago in a news article about the discovery of water under the Antarctic ice cap, which was ancient, millions of years old, unmoving in this way. So in the same way, when we look at consciousness, we see the same. We see the manifest, which we call desires and thoughts and all of this, which are also action. Mm-hmm. And we see the mind stuff, as it were, in unmanifest state, which is no thoughts, no. And by the way, in the unmanifest, manas, which here we can call chitta, or eventually even chit, then it has the potential to be any thought. Manas really is what we talk about at this level. It has the potential to be any thought, but right now it's not formed. But it can be. And then at the deepest level, is the substratum, which doesn't have the potential to form. Which serves the role of underlying. Now, all of it is consciousness. Mm-hmm. And so when we hear this, some of the sages or saints saying all is God, in the same way, all is consciousness. This is really what's intended, is it's all the same, but serving different roles, playing different parts, as it were. Some of them are quite active, and some of them are fundamental. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so here, sometimes we'll see with Advaita Vedanta that Brahman can be used to describe all of it, in the same way that we can use the word consciousness or water to describe all of it. And sometimes the word Brahman is specifically used to denote the underlier, that which is neither manifest nor unmanifest. And it can be confusing, but we'll hear it sometimes both ways. To mean the totality of it, both the unmanifest and the manifest and the substratum. And the substratum here is meaning that deep ocean of consciousness, unmoving, but which the moving or that which has the potential to move could not exist, as it were, without. In other words, the totality is what we're dealing with. So we're always dealing with the question of depth. In our personal sadhana, in our personal practices, we're always dealing with the question of depth. And here there's an introduction of Brahman and Ishvara, and it's a question of depth, as it were. So, but Ishvara is important, and the relationship with Ishvara is important. So with that little bit, we'll read some of what Swamiji is sharing here. He says, in a sense, Brahman is the ultimate cause of the universe, since by the action of Maya, the world appearance is superimposed upon Brahman. And he's talking here of this substratum. And what he's laying out is Brahman, in the way he's using the word here, is unmoving. And the movement and the potential for movement is this Maya, which has the same material cause. Om. You can't say, though, it's completely the same, and you can't say that it's different, interestingly enough. In the same way that the water, to say it's completely the same is a bit of an error. Mm. Yes, it's all water. Yes, it's all H2O. But they're different roles, and to dismiss the roles is not to understand. Yeah? Then we don't understand about water. If we just say it's all water, without comprehending the roles that are being played and how it is that this is the same water as that water. Otherwise, we just say it, but we don't get it. And so here, he says, Brahman is the cause, Maya is the effect. Yet Brahman cannot be said to have transformed itself into the world or to have created it, since absolute reality is, by definition, incapable of temporal action or change. So here he's still using that word to denote absolute reality, which is unchanging.
Would that be past causation?
I'm sorry, dear?
Would that be past causation or basic?
It's exactly the same as what we've talked about with the ocean. So, what is the absolute reality? What is the highest reality of the ocean? It's not the wave of the ocean.
Yes.
It's not the waves. It's not the unmanifest. It is the substratum. That's the deepest reality or the highest reality of it, of ocean. Mm-hmm. Without that, no ocean. Water, yeah, no ocean. Okay. Reality is, by definition, the absolute reality, incapable of temporal action or change. Another word, Ishvara, is therefore employed to describe the creative principle, so moving up to the unmanifest, then this word Ishvara is used. Ishvara is Brahman united with Maya. And to catch what he's sharing, ultimately, consciousness. But within consciousness is this Maya. And we've been discussing Maya the last couple of days. So one of the ways that we can consider Maya is the inversion or the reflection. That within consciousness, that which creates the potential for unmanifest and manifest. And it's said to be a reflection of consciousness. Again, very esoteric, very hard to grasp, very hard to understand. What is it that creates the potential for the ocean to be waves? Because the ocean, in fact, or the water itself, is never a wave. In order for the ocean to be waves, or the water to be waves, you will have to introduce delusion.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah. Mix it up.
You'll have to introduce confusion,
Mm-hmm.
misunderstanding. Yes?
Oh.
So, yeah? Bhranti. Because the ocean is never wave. The water is never a wave.
Disappears.
Yeah? It's never a wave. It's never been a wave. But practically speaking, it seems to be. Why does it seem to be? Well, that's Maya. It seems to be only because of Bhranti, because of delusion.
Yes.
Yeah? And where does that delusion exist? Well, it doesn't really exist. Because only water exists.
Yes.
Only consciousness exists. So it's a factor, as it were, introduced within Maya. It's a factor introduced within the consciousness. How? Why? God knows.
Keep us on our toes.
Even the existence of Maya is inferred. It's known because of the practical living experience that we have. Mm-hmm. It's known that I took this to be this because of delusion. And then how did the delusion occur? What was the delusion? Well, I took myself to be separate. I took the water to be a wave. That's the delusion. Okay. How did that happen? Well, it's quite mysterious. I don't know for sure, but I know that it happened. That's actually all that's important. Yeah?
Just to notice.
Yeah, and there are stories about how it happened and why it happened. Mm-hmm. Swami Prabhavananda would tell a story, and the story was that Brahman, the absolute, the infinite, one without a second, the unmoving, that which is beyond the manifest and the unmanifest, that which underlies all of it, that which never changes, had a thought. And then he smiles with his impish smile and he says, how? Well, it happened. That's all you can say of it.
Just is. Yeah.
And the thought was, I am one. Let me experience myself as many.
Yes.
And so the other thing we can say about Maya that we discussed the last couple of days is you can relate to it as a funhouse mirror, set of funhouse mirrors, where you can go into a funhouse, if anybody's ever done it, anybody online's ever done it, And you see yourself in so many different ways.
Oh.
You don't know who is yourself because you see, but that's nothing other than mirrors. And you yourself have not changed.
No.
And so Maya then can be seen to be a set of funhouse mirrors. Where I myself never change, but I see myself however I wish to see myself.
Oh. Yes.
And if they're infinite reflections, infinite mirrors, then I see myself as an infinite expression. So beyond that, Maya is really explicable, but it can be known how it works, not what its cause is. But the one who goes beyond it says, well, its cause is Brahman. How? Well, smile. But we know that it's so. The one who goes beyond knows that it's so. And we come back to that. So now, fine. Now we have through Maya, only through this reflection, which is of the Absolute, of course. Has to be, everything is. No possibility of a thing. Otherwise, there can't be two different realities. Science gets this. There can't be two different realities. There's one reality appearing as many realities. Mm-hmm. And so then we say, okay, Brahman is that reality. Now we're in the funhouse. We're all in the funhouse. Are we having fun? And in the funhouse, there is everything. There is everything. And so, how to get out of the funhouse? Well, in the funhouse, there will be the reflection, which is the highest of the reflections. And we'll call that Ishvara. And that, within the consciousness, within the mind stuff, will be the closest. Will not have forgotten who it is, what it is. Mm-hmm. And will point the way back out of the funhouse. But we're very much in it. This mind itself is it. This mind and Maya are one. This is what we're dealing with. So it's quite amazing that it's possible with this mind to determine the nature of our lived experience, that it seems one way, but it is another. It seems that we're separate, we're not separate. It seems that we're born, but we're not born. It seems that we die, but we don't die. It seems that I need to take care of myself, because if I don't take care of myself, no one else will, and I won't get anything. But in fact, I don't understand who myself is. And therefore, if I only serve this, I just increase the cause of the suffering. And I suffer more and more and more and more. And it seems like I'm born and die infinite times. But if I do the opposite of what it seems to be, and there's something inside of me telling me to do the opposite of what seems to be, but it's very deep, it's a still silent voice, it doesn't speak in English, or French, or Spanish. It speaks in a language that we can't really understand, but still it exists. Like the call, and that call is to serve all. That all is a unity. And the only way out of the suffering is to serve all and see the unity in the all. And so this is the dichotomy. And so somehow it's possible to follow that and to come out of this. And that is Ishvara, because it is in the funhouse. Yeah. It is in this experience of world, this Maya experience. It is in it. Yeah, it's not, and somehow it points the way out of it. We call it guru also. Yeah, so Ishvara. So Ishvara is Brahman united with Maya. The combination of Brahman and its power, which creates, preserves, and dissolves the universe in an endless and beginningless process. Ishvara is God personified, God with attributes. This is the way he introduces, with attributes. According to Sankhya, I'll just read a little of this. The universe is an evolution of Prakriti, undifferentiated matter. So that's the underneath the waves, Prakriti, unmanifest, undifferentiated matter. In the same way that the water just below the surface, I don't know, 1,000 meters, a few thousand meters, 10,000 meters or something. I don't know how far it goes down, but in consciousness it's the same. That's called Prakriti. Undifferentiated matter composed of three forces called the gunas. Creation is a disturbance in the balance of these forces. Just like the ocean, that water lies as potential. And also the same forces exist within it as potential. And here in consciousness we see the same. That at this unmanifest, the potential is there because the gunas are in balance now, in equanimity now. Now, does all of this exist within Brahman? Yes, but beyond unmanifest, even deeper. And so creation is a disturbance in the balance of these forces. The gunas begin to enter into an enormous variety of combinations, somewhat as in the Western theory of atomic structure, and these combinations are individual elements, objects, and creatures. The concept of Prakriti corresponds more or less to Shankara's concept of Maya, but with this important difference. Prakriti is said to be other than and independent of Purusha, the absolute reality. And that's why this is Sankhya, and Sankhya seemed to be a limited philosophy. It is not a non-dual philosophy. So he's comparing the two, and I don't want to spend much time with it.
Okay.
We want to go back to what Shankara is.
Advaita.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there are those who say that there are two realities. Still today, there are those who say there are two realities. Modern science doesn't accept that there are two realities. They see that there appear to be, which is interesting. So that's why unifying theory is so important in science. So with Shankaracharya, Maya is said to have no absolute reality, but to be dependent upon Brahman. Therefore, it is Ishvara rather than Prakriti who can be described as the ultimate cause of the universe. Then he asks this question, are there then two gods? One, the impersonal Brahman, substratum, which is not involved, and the other, the personal Ishvara, which is quite involved. No, for Brahman only appears as Ishvara when viewed by the relative ignorance of Maya. Ishvara has the same degree of reality as Maya has. God, the person, is not the ultimate nature of Brahman. In the words of Swami Vivekananda, personal God is the reading of the impersonal by the human mind. So Ishvara, or personal God, this is the way we can say. We can say Jesus, for example, personal God. Krishna, personal God. They're all Buddha, personal God. Buddha could be seen as the personal God who said there's no God. But was revered as God. And it still is. Now this is quite a show. This is quite a show. God appearing as a godless God in order to lead us back to the truth. Ishvara. Ishvara. So Ishvara, personal God. However we relate to God, honestly, however we relate to God, we're relating utilizing the mind, you see. which means Ishvara, not Brahman. Ishvara, not Brahman. Beyond the mind, Brahman. In the mind, Ishvara. So Ishvara existing within the mind itself. But the truth of Ishvara is the same as the truth of us. The I and Brahman are naparaha, non-different. So the truth of Ishvara and the truth of us, the same. Now, as our individual person, is Ishvara the same? Is Ishvara identical? Well, Ishvara has a different role than we do as a quote-unquote individual. Yeah, Ishvara has a different role. Within the world, meaning unmanifest and manifest, within the world, Ishvara is the supreme within the world. Ishvara is the absolute, is the knower of the absolute and the creator of the relative. So you could say for the meditator, just as you're starting to come out of the state of meditation, just at the very beginning of coming out of the state of meditation, now you're in Ishvara's world. But the meditator is still the ultimate reality.
Right.
Yeah. Even though now the meditator is entering the field of dreams and waking state and deep sleep state. Yeah. Oh. And those three, by the way, the three gunas and the three states also related. So
the Ishvara is not necessarily like an avatar. It's just whoever you're covering.
Well,
with your mind thinking it's God.
Ishvara is the highest, the most real of the ephemeral. So it's real from that perspective. If we talk about anything in the world, Ishvara is more real than that. Because it is the creative principle.
Yeah.
So for any of us to say something's real, that something that's real owes its reality to the creator, to the creative principle.
Mm-hmm.
But the creator, the creative principle, owes its reality only to Brahman. And it appears, and therefore when it appears, all of this appears. Yeah. Through what? Only Brahman's power, as it were, of Maya.
Mm-hmm. 3 states.
So it is personal God, not necessarily our own personal God.
Okay.
Not necessarily our own personal God. I had money as my personal God for a long time. And I would not say that's Ishvara.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Okay.
Or you could say like any of the saints, like Sadhguru is Ishvara, for example. Or Peace Pilgrim is Ishvara.
An individual person is not Ishvara.
It's below Ishvara.
Is of, we could say. But is subject to the creative principle, an individual person.
Mm-hmm.
But what is the person made of? Who is it made by? Ultimately, you would have to say water. Because the person is a wave.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes.
Ultimately, you would have to say consciousness.
So I understand all that, but I'm just trying to get what's the definition exactly of Ishvara.
Let's go back to the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In the ocean, the same water, the deepest role, the the most profound role is the unmoving, the substratum, without which the ocean is not possible. The entirety of the ocean is not possible. Brahman.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the rest of the ocean relies or sits upon Brahman. But what is it that makes the rest of the ocean possible? Maya. So the rest of the ocean, what we consider to be an ocean, the unmanifest and the manifest, all of that can only exist through delusion. And so that's Maya. And now within the Maya, within the delusion, how is it that that any of the rest of the ocean can be created? Ishvara.
Okay, so
Ishvara. So in this way we can say Ishvara then is not created, but is the creator. It owes its reality to Brahman and Maya. Does that make any sense at all?
yeah, it makes sense.
You can meditate. You can meditate with it. You can meditate with it. So it's not the appearance of a personal God, we could say, but we could say it is the personal God. Where does it exist? Well, its existence is the same as our existence. Its existence is existence absolute. How is it that the world comes to be? World comes to be through Maya, through delusion. Yeah? Okay. And now the rules of the world. Who made the rules of the world? Who made them? In this case, you would have to say, well, the substratum didn't do it. Who created the rest of the properties of water, the ocean? Did the substratum do it? No. So who did it? Ishvara. It's a name. But all of this then, all of the rules, all the laws, all of this, who, what? Ishvara. And where does Ishvara exist? Where is Ishvara's field of existence? Maya is his field of existence.
So he's
in the mind.
He's one of the supervisors?
He's the supreme supervisor. Very good. He's the CEO of the world. Of the world show. Oh. Okay. So with that, we'll come to the close of the discussion. So, and fine, here we are all in the world, and we're told not of it. We're told not of it. But we're still subject to delusion. We still find ourselves subject to delusion. However, we also find ourselves in a place wanting to be free of the delusion, maybe desperately wanting to be free of the delusion. So how? Devotion to the Ishvara, the personal God, may lead a man very far along the path of spirituality. It may take him it may make him into a saint. It's not the ultimate knowledge. To be completely enlightened is to go beyond Ishvara, to know the impersonal reality behind the personal divine experience, which also means to go beyond the mind, once again, to transcend the mind. And he says, to be completely enlightened is to go beyond Ishvara, to know the impersonal reality. We can become Brahman, since Brahman is present in us always, but we can never become Ishvara because Ishvara is above and distinct from our human personality. It follows, therefore, that we can never become rulers of the universe, for that is Ishvara's function. And he makes a point here. He says, the desire to usurp this function of Ishvara is the ultimate madness of ego. It's symbolized in Christian literature by the legend of the fall of Lucifer, which is this desire and it only exists in the human persona to be the creator. So as a result, we get into all this discussion in this age about co-creating and creating and wanting to create this and wanting to create that. But in fact, the human person does not create anything. That's a role that's above our pay grade, the human person. So we have the capacity to tune, we have the capacity to call on, but the unmanifest was created before the individual, the quote, human person. In fact, the human person is made of the unmanifest, the human person. But who is the I? Well, the I is Brahman. This is the exploration that we embark on tomorrow, is the relationship between the I and all of the rest of this. That's what Viveka Chudamani is about. So Swamiji here is talking about the rest of this, but he's also talked about the I, by introducing Shankara's aphorism. Brahman Satyam Jagat Mithya. Jivo Brahmeva Naparaha. So the I and Brahman are one. So I can be Brahman, but I can't be Ishvara, is a point that he makes. To be Ishvara, then I have to be the person. So, okay, last point. Then how does this matter? He says, as long as man is within the limitations of Maya, that is, as long as we find ourselves subject to this delusion that I am this, or I am angry, or I am hungry, or any of these delusions, then we are within the limitations of Maya. We're still identified with it. The one as seen as many. So as long as man is within the limitations of Maya, the one is seen as many. Ignorance can do no better than to worship appearance. And Ishvara is the ruler of all appearances. The highest idea is the ruler of all, the highest idea which the human mind can grasp and the human heart can love. The human mind can never grasp the absolute reality. It can only infer its presence and worship its projected image. In the process of this worship, the mind becomes purified, the ego idea thins away like mist, superimposition ceases, Ishvara and the world appearance both vanish in the blaze of transcendental consciousness, where there is no seer, no seen, nothing but Brahman, the single, all-embracing, timeless fact. So we come back to the point that Swamiji makes about what can the person, the mind, do. The mind can focus on the highest. What is the highest here in this created? Ishvara. And in this way, Ishvara is unchanging. So our own personal relationship with God, yes, name and form, but it has to be, for us, the highest. It has to be for us the highest. So you devote to Mother. Mother is Ishvara. Yes? So because Ishvara is everything and is the creator of everything, things, this entire world appearance, unmanifest and manifest both, then that devotion will concentrate the mind. And the mind will evaporate like the mist, leaving only Brahman. This is what he's sharing. So he discusses Ishvara as being different in a way, But finally, he closes the discussion by saying, however, the devotee of Ishvara, who devotes completely and does exactly as Lord Krishna says in the Gita, thinks only of me, devotes himself completely to me, offers everything to me, shall surely have me, for he is most dear to me. And here Krishna is speaking as the Absolute. But the form, but also understanding that the human mind is not relating to him as the Absolute. Unmanifest. The human mind is relating to him as a speaker within the play. Yeah? But by accepting him as the Absolute, devoting to him, thinking only of him, then it attains to union, as it were. The I attains to union, as it were. Okay. So tomorrow morning we'll pick up from here, and we're going to have short, fun prayers and arati, but we should check to see if we have questions.
Someone's asking, Bhranti, is this confusion? Delusion?
Bhranti is delusion.
Ishvara highest reflection, beautiful. Someone's saying, Om Namah Shivaya, it's lovely to have you back in the morning. Have a great day.
Make a great day. Make a great day. You see, this only comes because I said that to Swami Ramasrupananda, have a good day, or have a great day. I think I said have an amazing day, or something like that. Really wishing.
Yeah.
And he looked at me without a smile, and he said, no, make a great day. So thank you very much. Make a great day. Okay, let's close. Short final prayers in Arati, page 156. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandim Pushti Vardhanam Orvai Rukameva Bandhanan Mritor Mokshiyamamritat Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandim Pushti Vardhanam Orvai Rukameva Bandhanan Mritor Mokshiyamamritat Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandim Pushti Vardhanam Orvai Rukameva Bandhanat Mritor Mokshiyamamritat Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. O adorable Lord of mercy and love, let us abide in Thee forever and ever. On below Satguru Shivananda Maharaj Ki, and for all the saints and sages of all the traditions.